Hey, welcome to the Hangar Z podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts. In this episode, Jack Schonely and I have an opportunity to bring you a preview for APSCON 2024, being held in Houston, Texas, July 29th through August 3rd. With us to discuss APSCON is the Airborne Public Safety Association Executive Director and CEO, Dan Schwarzbach, and the Training Program Manager, Dan Knight. APSCON is the Airborne Public Safety Association's annual conference, which brings together public safety aviation professionals from around the world. The event offers extensive educational programs, hands-on training, and opportunities for networking and collaboration. Attendees can explore the latest innovations in technology and equipment at the exhibit hall, participate in workshops, and gain valuable insights from industry experts, all aimed at enhancing the effectiveness and safety of airborne law enforcement operations. Dan Schwarzbach brings 38 years of experience from the Houston Police Department, with the last 30 years dedicated to the Air Support Division. Dan served as a tactical flight officer, systems operator, and pilot in command, overseeing the department's Bell 412 EP, the MD 500E, and the S300C helicopters. As the division's budget coordinator, he managed purchasing and maintenance for the agency's 15 aircraft. Since 2014, Dan has been the executive director and CEO of the Airborne Public Safety Association, where he also holds the honorary title of President Emeritus. His leadership extends to various prestigious organizations, including the International Association of Chiefs of Police, the National Sheriff's Association, and the Helicopter Association International. Dan's international representation of U.S. public safety aviation is commendable, having presented at conferences in multiple countries. We're also honored to have Dan Knight with us. Dan was born in upstate New York and moved to Idaho at a young age. After completing high school and a brief stint in the U.S. Army, Dan began his law enforcement career in 1990. Driven by a strong urge to contribute to the war on terror after 9/11, Dan joined the Federal Air Marshal Service in Boston. He later returned to the Pacific Northwest and joined the Spokane County Sheriff's Office in 2006. With over 15 years in the Air Support Unit, Dan served in various roles, including TFO, crew chief, hoist operator, Part 107 pilot, and unit supervisor. He played a pivotal role in expanding the unit from 6 to 33 members, acquiring patrol helicopters and Super Hueys, and establishing the UAS program. After retiring from law enforcement in late 2022, Dan started his own consulting business and now serves as the training program manager for the Airborne Public Safety Association. Thank you to our sponsors, Robinson Helicopters, Spectrum Aeromed, and Precision Aviation Group. Cheers.
Welcome to the Hangar Z podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts. The Hangar Z podcast is the first and only podcast dedicated to promoting and exploring the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation. Join your host, John Gray, Jeff Ratkovich, and Jack Schonely.
Still southbound, skidding to a stop. Down by here. Looks like they're getting ready to bail. Heads up, guys, bailing. Okay, the guy, he's running through the house, jumping the fence, through the shotgun, through something out. Grabbing the shotgun. Don't go over that fence. Don't go over that fence. Grab the shotgun again. He is armed. Stay there. Hold your position.
4 on the stop. You're in custody.
Good advising code 4 on the stop.
Hey, welcome to the Hangar Z podcast. I'm your host, John Gray. Have a special conversation in store for today. We every year look forward to APSCON. I think it's the law enforcement, public safety aviation industry's kind of Super Bowl. It's the opportunity we get every year to get together, network, train, and get some education, meet new friends and see friends that you've had for years as you've been a part of this industry. I'm always excited to go. It's always a highlight for my year. We started doing these interviews with APSA a couple years ago. Dan Schwarzbach was kind enough to join us in the past and give us a preview as to what we can expect for that year's conference, and we're going to continue that today. To do that, we brought Jack Schonely in to have this conversation. How you doing, Jack?
Good, John. Thanks for having me.
You have just a little bit of experience with APSCON?
Yeah, many years, and it's going to be good to go back this year.
Yeah,
really good.
You taught the TFO course for quite a while. How many years did you teach that?
Maybe 14 years, I think.
Wow,
it's a long time.
Yeah,
a long time.
And then so we got Dan Schwarzbach with us. How you doing, sir?
Good, doing great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Thanks for your support. It's been a great partnership that we've had with you guys, trying to promote what you guys are doing, and you've been gracious enough to promote us, so thank you for that. Dan Knight, your name is one that I've heard a lot of good things about. prior to meeting you, I had a chance to meet you at HAI this year, and that was cool. But I always heard a lot of nice things about you. And you've got a new role this year as you have retired. Can you tell us what your role is and a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thanks, John. Interestingly enough, you talked about Jack and how long he was teaching there. So a little bit of background. That's one of the very first classes I ever went to as a TFO was Jack's class down in for one of the ALEA conferences back in the day when we were called ALEA. But longtime cop, right? I started my law enforcement career in 1990 and did some moving around. Even ended up in Boston for a while as a Federal Air Marshal. And through a series of events, I ended up back in Idaho, where I live up in Coeur d'Alene, and I got hired at Spokane County Sheriff's Office. Shortly after that, they were just in the midst of starting an air support program, and they had gotten an OH-58. And John Preston and some of those guys came in and offered to help us start up that program. And because I had some aviation background, I was a pilot already, I got hired and placed into that program pretty early on. And it was a collateral duty, right? We still worked the road, but we went and flew on the weekends and stuff. And I just ended up staying with that unit through my entire career there, going up to as far as the unit supervisor. We expanded from one ship and we went into 4 OH-58s. We ended up getting some Hueys, got a couple of Super Hueys. We, under my guidance and when I was there, started the UAS unit. So did a lot of stuff. Ended up getting hurt though, and I couldn't fly anymore. And so I ended my career as a range master at Spokane County Sheriff's Office. But in late 2022, I decided to retire from that. And I was just doing some consultation work, and APSA ended up needing a new training program manager. Don Roby had left, and there's a vacancy to fill. And although highly competitive, and there's a lot of really good people put in for it, I ended up getting chosen, and I really, really look forward to working here. Yeah, I've been here since November of last year, and it's drinking out of the fire hose, right? Yeah. Airborne Public Safety Association does a lot with a little bit of staff, and it's shocking to me how much stuff we can accomplish. But so far, the ride's been excellent, surrounded by nothing but great people. The accolades you gave me about hearing great things, I do appreciate that. And I just hope that I just can honestly prove to people that the value that we're bringing out and the training that we do provide.
Yeah. Well, as you know, it's a small community, and that could be good or bad depending on who you are. But in your case, it's a good thing,
Yeah, most of it was from me, Dan. And I told him a whole bunch of really nice stuff.
Then there was
really nice stuff.
I'm surprised he said anything nice at that point.
Hey, you breezed over your law enforcement career like in a blink of an eye, and I do remember, people say your career goes by in a blink of an eye, and I'm as a young guy, I was like, whatever, kind of brush it off, but it's true. Looking in hindsight, when you look back on your career, like, holy cow, that went by fast.
It goes by really, really fast. My wife's in the same boat. She's retiring this September in 28 years, and it just flies.
Yeah. I think especially once you have kids, because then everything hits fast forward and you're consumed with all these different things. But when you look back over the course of your career, and again, you breezed over it, you spent time in patrol, you're part of a part-time unit at the beginning. Did that unit eventually evolve into a full-time unit, or it kind of stay in that part-time capacity?
Yeah, it's still collateral duties for most of the guys. So Spokane's it's a unique model, and not unheard of, but it's a different bit of a model. So as far as all our TFOs and stuff, and the guys that work the hoists, the crew chiefs and stuff on the Hueys, they're all cops, right? They're all gun-carrying cops, but it's a collateral duty for them. And then our rescue medics, that's in coordination working with the local fire departments. They supply the helicopter rescue medics. And 90% of our pilots, we have 13 pilots right now, but 90% of those guys are volunteers as well. And, they work for Life Flight. We have one of our pilots, Jack Scanlon. He's a Hollywood stunt pilot, right? I mean,
amazing.
If we were to pay these guys to come to work, you couldn't get better quality. And here's people doing it for free. Yeah. And it's just amazing. And having that opportunity to be there and work with that quality of people, it's amazing. But to get back to your question, yeah, it's always a part-time unit. It's always going to be a part-time unit as far as, I can see. There's a definite need. I can't say it's the best model, right? I think it does need at least full-time supervision. But with staffing levels that we all understand in law enforcement right now, it's pulling teeth. And you find out, like, I was assigned to the sex crimes unit when I was still the unit supervisor. And what I found is I was doing 80% unit supervisor stuff and 20% of my primary job. just because it's so busy, right? But again, it's probably not the perfect model, and none of us would probably use that model if we could. But until staffing levels changes and things, that's just not going to change.
Yeah, a lot of the agencies are not just facing staffing level issues; they're facing financial issues, budgetary restrictions that don't allow them to operate a full-time unit. So they're doing what they can with what they have. Obviously, what you guys did there was successful because you've lasted the test of time. Can you talk about some of the success you've had and give some advice or suggestions to folks who might find themselves in a similar position?
Luckily we've been able to. We've even brought people like Jack Schonely, Kevin Mean, some of the big names in industry up there to teach. Randy Roll, some of those guys to bring in, and I think that always helps, right? Because it builds and adds to the competency level of the program. Success-wise, you go back to our very first capture on a FLIR, right, or our very first capture during a pursuit, just eyes out the window, right? So you start building on those successes. Always great. Being the only air asset this side of the Cascades, in the eastern half of Washington, you end up being busy, and you end up being a gypsy for a lot of different agencies. Being able to bring those to other agencies that can't afford air power or air support, and having that ability to help those people out. Our very, very first hoist rescue mission, I actually happened to get to fly that mission, but it was in Idaho. It wasn't even in our backyard. And since that time, because we have such a close working relationship with King County, Snohomish County, there's days the Cascades are snowed in or fogged in, and they can't get from the west side to the side of the mountains that we're on. And we've flown a lot of support missions for those guys and hauled a lot of people out of the Cascades for them. But yeah, the successes on UAS. I have to tell you, as we talk about this and some of the things I would recommend to people, when you have those successes, get out in front of it, get it out in the public, put it on your web pages and all of those things, because none of this stuff works without public support. Because as you said, it's an expensive proposition. There's nothing free about aviation. But when you start getting that community support, it makes the job a little bit easier. Those guys at Spokane County just got funded for a new Bell 505, and that wouldn't have been possible had the commissioners not seen the value that the air support brings. Right?
It's come a long way since that first OH-58, huh?
It has. Yeah. It really has.
It's amazing.
We went from 4 people and a couple pilots. They're up to 33 unit members now with 4 mechanics, and so that's where you end up being. So the success stories are long, but that takes a lot of commitment. We have our unit commander, Dave Ellis, who's been there since day one, very, very upfront, very in front of people, pushing that unit, pushing for the successes, making sure those things are recognized, so that these funding issues and stuff become easier. But my number one recommendation, every success, get it out there, just so the public sees the value. Because a lot of it, sometimes we're embarrassed. You talk about me breezing over my career. Well, it's not easy for a lot of cops to talk about their successes. We just have a tendency to say, because all your brothers did the same thing, and sisters. Yeah. They're all doing the same thing. So you just kind of go, they've heard this story before. And so we're not really good at putting that out and propagating our mission, but that's what's necessary. And I think that's the number one thing I could tell people.
You mentioned, Dan, commitment. And I'm going to add a word to that from my observations of your unit, which I'm very, very familiar with, is that it wasn't just commitment, and it was patience too. You guys didn't rush anything. You accepted what you had at that moment in time. You continued to strive and committed to grow and to get better and to expand, but you didn't do it overnight. And your unit overall was very patient about that. And I always thought that was really, really smart. You didn't get in over your heads. You took it one step at a time, and it has paid dividends. Having both of those things. That's just me observing from an outsider from your unit.
Yeah, that's a great observation, because sometimes we didn't know we were doing it right. But one of the things we learned, and by attending ALIA, which we're now branded as Airborne Public Safety, but going to those conferences and learning what you don't know, and then finding out people that can help you with those problems, right? Hiring people like you, hiring people that know what to do. And as another take back for the listeners too, is so many times, how many agencies right now are just going to Costco, buying a drone and starting to droning it, right? Well, people have done it in manned aviation as well. And not only is it dangerous, but it's kind of reckless. And at the same time, you don't know what you don't know. And so let's bring in the experts. And I think that's one of the things Spokane always prided itself on is we made great memberships with Aaliyah at the time. We made great memberships with some of the best trainers out there. And we were willing to fund the training it took to make sure that we could stay safe and to know what we're doing. And it was a big, big difference.
Yeah.
Right. Can you talk about the staffing model? I know it was a part-time unit, but what did that model look like? How would you guys get called out, and how frequent were you guys flying?
Frequency changes, as you know, probably year to year. When we were just a patrol outfit, you 70, 80 call outs a year. And on top of that, we'd fly every Friday, Saturday. We would look at crime statistics and try to base those, find out what's happening, what's the worst times of day, best times of day, those type of things to be up and be more proactive. We established a policy that everyone got part of the joining the unit was you had to make mandatory trainings once a month. And then part of it was you had to agree to be on call. And although the union didn't care for it, we had to make an agreement that you at least are going to respond to those call outs. And whether it's available or unavailable, as a unit supervisor, that's the only thing I wanted to know. If something came out and the balloon went up, I just need to know if you're available or not, right? And then we start that process. And by having some really, really committed people in the early days, there's 5 of us when I joined, you were fighting the guy to take the call, right? And that's not necessarily the case nowadays, only because people are so busy and stuff. But, that's the only way we can make it work is to have 33 people. Half of those are medics, half of them are cops. And given at any point in time, whether they're available or not, the guys on shift obviously make the most sense because they can rush right in and come in and grab the calls or not. But our standard operating procedure was, we fly in X amount of days, but we are also on call 24/7. And if we get a call from a requesting agency, it just went out to a pager. And whoever could respond went. We had a big advantage. Our chief pilot is co-located in our hangar because he owns inland helicopters, right? So you almost always have at least one pilot standing around doing something. And a couple of his staff members, a couple of his CFIs also flew for us at the same time too. So our call outs became pretty easy to handle, right? But as we increased mission sets, as we increased the UAS mission, we increased into the rescue mission stuff. That gets a little bit more problematic because not everyone can do the Huey mission. Not everyone can fly the UAS missions and stuff. So it became a little bit more problematic. I can also tell you though, to date, we've never been unable to staff a mission. So, and sometimes, as a unit supervisor, you kind of have to step back and let other people do some work. But I've never been around either my predecessors or myself. If it came down to it, we'd go fly. If we had nobody else available, we'd go fly. And I think that's important, right? Lead by example. And if you have to, you go in.
Yeah. It's neat that you had the opportunity to work on that drone integration, bringing that technology in and implementing that into your program. I think it's crucial now that you're in the role that you were in, because the drone operations are working hand in hand with manned aviation. And I think as we go forward, you're only going to see an increase in the cooperation of those two programs. They're complementing programs. And you see that firsthand because you're experienced in that role. So I think it's a great position for you to be in. I'd like to circle back to that when we start talking about the conference and on how the UAS training is going to take place and what's available. But any insight from that from any of you guys?
Thank you to our sponsor, Spectrum Aeromed, your trusted partner in air medical solutions. Experience safety and innovation with their customized interiors. Designed for both rotor and fixed-wing aircraft. Fly with confidence. Fly with Spectrum Aeromed. For more information, please visit spectrum-aeromed.com.
Well, I think what you're saying, John, about the two complementing each other working together, that's exactly what we had in mind when we brought back what was previously called the Public Safety Drone Expo, which was a separate event in the fall. And when we lost 2 of them to COVID and we decided to bring it back, and we rebranded as APSCON Unmanned and decided to do it at the same time as the conference, two separate training events, but with a shared exhibit hall. That was exactly what we were thinking is these are complementary technologies. They can work together and we can put them together and showcase them together.
Yeah. Jack, I know you have some unique insight, based on the training that you've done recently. The role of a drone operator as compared to a TFO. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I've done 3 different trainings now where it's drone, canine, coordination training with scenarios for drone operators. And I tell them, I said, I'm here. I'm not a drone operator. I can't fly one of those. But what I can share with you is communication and search techniques and FLIR knowledge and suspect tactics and all that, because I believe the drone operators, the UAS teams that are out there, they are pilots / TFOs. So to me, I look at the TFO training course. I think that's applicable. 90% of it's applicable to a UAS operator. I truly believe that, because a lot of it has to do with communication. So much of it is communication, and so I'm really excited that you guys have decided to put it together, because I think that's smart, because it's practical for one thing. It's one conference instead of two. That's a savings right there. But what I'm saying is, it's so you could go into any of those classrooms, whether it's on the drone side or the rotorcraft fixed wing side, and for a drone operator, it's going to be beneficial. Safety is safety. Looking for suspects on a FLIR, does it matter what you're operating? Does it matter whether it's on an H-125 or a drone? It doesn't matter. It's the same. And then when you find them, what do you say? It's the same. So that's my spiel on it with the UAS people, is that you have taken a job where you are a pilot and a TFO. Very challenging at times. But the more you learn, the more you can learn about it, the better off you're going to be. So this is exciting that it's together, and I look forward to seeing that and talking to more UAS people there, because it's the future. I mean, helicopters and fixed wings are not going away, but the UAS programs are going to expand even faster than they are now. You know, everybody has one now. It's amazing.
I feel like Dan, you guys might be able to confirm this, but I would imagine that the drone operator community is exploding in the U.S. alone. Every agency, the cost of entry or barrier to entry is so much lower for those programs. Are you seeing that through your membership?
Yeah, and one of the other things I do is I vet all the stuff that goes on our website. As our editor in chief of our magazines and a lot of our stuff, I'm vetting a lot of stuff. And for every one good, manned aircraft story I get 5 good drone stories, and startups and the effectiveness catching people. Just today, we posted 2 stories to our website and headlines that had to do with canines and drones working together, catching people. So to Jack's point.
Yeah. I think it's another tool for the aviation tool belt, and it's not adding one and taking one away. I think there's a lot of conversation about how they're going to replace each other. And I just don't see that. I think each have their strengths and each has their weakness. They just really complement each other. And I think once people understand that and can wrap their head around that, I think we'll see more cooperation, more joint training, and overall increased efficiency and effectiveness when it comes to these missions where you're involving both drones and manned aviation.
We're hearing that almost every podcast, huh, John?
Yeah,
it's amazing. With all these guests from all over the country and North America, we just were talking to the Canadians the other day, and we were talking about the UAS stuff and how they complement each other, and how training is so important no matter which airframe you're in. So it's going to continue to expand, and staying in front of it's going to be hard because it's going so fast.
Well, I got to tell you, and that's one of the things that potentially I brought to the table. Now, a lot of people there's a lot of people in my situation, but I also brought to the table TFO stuff, right? Patrol tactics, rescue community, UAS. And so hopefully you understand, I'm an expert at none, but I was able to touch all those communities. And I can tell you that you're absolutely right. And you guys have all been around long enough, and I'm going to not selfishly, but embarrassingly admit that when drones started coming around, there was a bad word in our community, and we thought, oh no, here they come. They think they're going to replace us, and I was one of those people that kind of fought it in the early stages. But we also realized, going to some of these classes at these conferences, they said, look, you either embrace this into the air sport unit, or they're going to start it themselves anyways. And we really got in front of that. And again, I'll give Dave Ellis credit for this. He says, look, we're going to do this, but let's keep it in the air sport unit. And we just embrace it. And now we can't live without them. We're putting them in people's patrol cars and stuff. We can't live without them. And is replacing it? Never. But is it going to augment? Absolutely. And it's been so beneficial.
Yeah.
And Jack, I'll just say to your point, a drone operator could go to the TFO course and it would make sense. It's interestingly enough that the drone basic operator course does have a lot of flavors of the TFO course because those do blend.
Yeah,
So,
good.
yeah.
It's as it should. It should. Your perspective, even though you're standing on the ground, and to some of the newer UAS people, they would just kind of look at me funny, but I know this is true. Although you're on the ground, you're looking at the airborne perspective on your screen. So that's communication is going to be different than you're used to looking at each other going, hey, here's what we're going to do. You have to know how to talk, what to say, what not to say, how to be clear and concise, how to describe tactics to patrol officers from the aerial perspective. And once that light bulb goes on, I love watching it go on, by the way. I mean, because I get to watch it. Some people get it right away, but most are like, they struggle a little bit. And by the end of the day, they're going, I see what you mean. Oh my gosh. I go, thank you very much. It ain't rocket science. Heck, I do it. So it's got to be pretty easy. You can do it. You just have to understand that, it's different and it's a unique perspective. And yes, you're on the ground, but your perspective's from the air. So that's why I think they overlap in almost every way.
Yeah. There's so much to talk about there. I feel like we could spend a whole couple hours talking about that. Well, we will have to circle back and touch on that as we go forward. But I'd like to not close out your career, but talk about the end of your career. You spent time as a range master. I think you mentioned you were also involved in some other training roles within your department and how that kind of set you up for the position you're in now. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I'd like to think it set me up in some ways, right? Having never done conferences and something at this scale, but having developed curriculum and writing curriculum, I was one of the 4 original master fire instructors for the state of Washington. And towards the end of my career, I was running the firearms program for this county of Spokane. We were also in the middle of building a $42 million range facility when I retired. And when I walked away, nobody else was in the position that I had been to be on top of that. And so the county hired me back as a consultant to help oversee that project. Not only setting up trainings, building training curriculums and some of that stuff, I also get this other side of the house of that, how to go about building a training facility. If you guys go out to that current training facility, it's a 50-meter range, 21 lanes wide. It's an amazing range. But, we also have 16 classrooms. We can host over, 400 people out there at a single training event in some of these classrooms. We have a hoist training tower. We have a UTM shoot house. So we built this as a complete training facility. And having that knowledge and some of that has helped me continue as I retired. I get calls quite often on how did you go about this? How do you build this program? How do you justify costs and stuff like that? So, that's something else that's where my job's led me now. And quite frankly, being able to come here as a training program manager, it was always interesting being a training guy. And now I get to manage some of the best people in the industry and help shape that. So I think my career helped me get this started, helped me understand where people are coming from. But this is a whole new aspect of something I've never done. I've managed units. I've never managed an organizational training program. And so it's different. But again, everything I've done up to this point has helped me get to where I'm at.
Thank you for the job you're doing. It's
I appreciate
important. The education and training and networking is a huge part of people's career advancement and the development of their programs. And that's what y'all provide at APSA through APSCON. So Dan, I'd like to shift over to you. The conference is coming to your hometown, and I'll let you elaborate on that. People heard you on the podcast before, but for the folks that maybe haven't, can you talk about your background a little bit and why you call Houston home and what you're doing at APSA?
Sure. Natural born Texan. I was actually born in Austin, but my family moved to Houston early in my life, 4 or 5 years old, and grew up here. I spent 38 years with the Houston Police Department. I joined the Houston Police Department in 1980. Spent 38 years there, and 30 of those years I was fortunate enough to be in the air support unit, flying manned aircraft for them. So that's my background there. Again, not to brush over quickly, but it was 38 years that went by quickly, and I actually physically retired from there in September of 2019. So there was a time there that I was working both jobs. I was still employed by the Houston Police Department and working full-time as executive director and CEO of APSA. Then, I was on the APSA boards or the ALEA board back then for about 15, 16 years when I was offered the job by the then president, Kurt Frizz, offered me the job to come on board as their executive director and CEO. So I'm in my 11th year of doing that now, and it's been a lot of fun doing that as well. Houston and ALEA APSA have a long history. The first elected president of ALEA back then, of the association, was the lieutenant that founded our aviation unit. There was an appointed president. The very first year they met, they appointed a couple people, but the first elected president was that lieutenant. The first conference and exposition we ever had as an organization was in Houston, Texas. And that's back in 2020. We were scheduled to come to Houston in 2020 for a conference, but that got lost to COVID, and that was going to be our 50th anniversary. And that's the reason we picked that year and picked that time, because we were going to go back to where it all started 50 years before. This will be our 53rd now, because we lost one. This will be our 53rd annual conference and expo. But what it does mark for Houston, it makes Houston the first 5-time host for the conference. So we've been several other cities 4 times along with Houston, but Houston will become our first 5-time conference host. So we're excited about that as well. We've been in different facilities over the years, and as we come to Houston, the last couple of times have been at the George R. Brown downtown Houston, and that's where we'll be again this year.
That's awesome. I've never been to Houston, but I'm looking forward to visiting. The one thing I've heard is it's hot, which comes as no surprise, right?
Well, I think it's all relative. I like it warm. I like it hot. To me, if it's 55, it might as well be 32 as far as I'm concerned, because I'm freezing. But it can be warm. I think the humidity is worse than the heat. It is humid. What's nice about where we're going to be is we've got the Georgia Brown Convention Center right on the east side of downtown. They've done an expansion a few years ago. They've really done a lot of expanding and remodeling since the last time we were there. Used to be you'd have to walk outside to go to each of the 5 exhibit halls. Now they're all connected inside, so that they've done expansion there. They took out a large portion of the street. They put in a 5 more restaurants there. And on the south end of the convention center, it's since the construction convention center, there's been a Marriott hotel there. I'm sorry, a Hilton hotel, and that's going to be our host hotel, the Hilton Americas, and it's connected by a skywalk. So you never have to actually go outside if you don't want to. You can leave the hotel, go right to the convention center.
You'll be okay, John. You will be okay, John. Don't worry. I'll walk with you across that walkway you won't have to go outside unless you really want to.
Okay. All right.
You don't. And then on the north end of the last expansion, and this is new since we were in Houston last, they built a Marriott Marquis hotel down there, and they also attached it via skywalk to the convention center, to the new expansion. So from either end, you can walk straight in. You don't have to go outside. You can enjoy the air conditioning. Houston also has about 6 miles of tunnels underneath the ground in downtown. Wow. So you can walk pretty much anywhere downtown using the tunnel system if you choose to. Within those tunnels, there's restaurants and stores. You can shop and do other things as well. So there's quite a tunnel system there also. Some of the other exciting things in that area, a block north of the convention center and the Marriott Marquis Hotel is Minute Maid Park, where the Astros play. So it's easy walk to there. Just behind the convention center is, I think it's called Shell Oil Field now. It's where for the soccer, Major League Soccer plays there, MLS. And then just to the south, a block south of the convention center and the Hilton Hotel is the Toyota Center, that's home to Houston Rockets and a lot of concerts and stuff too. So and besides the restaurants that are right in the area there, the park right across the street, there's a lot of venues for a lot of eating, drinking, and entertainment.
That's awesome.
I think Dan left out though. The Astros are in town while we're there, so
every all 8 days that we'll be there. They're playing. There's only one day in between they're not playing, but there is a home game for 7 of the 8 days that we're there. So yeah.
How did you have them arrange that, Dan? Did you call the MLB director and say, hey, we need you in town, or what?
He's a lot more powerful than you think.
I might have to pitch one of the games, but other than that, it works out. It's very, very, very happenstance, but really to our advantage.
That is cool.
That's really neat. A lot of the folks that listen to the podcast, I would say a majority of them know about APSA and the mission of APSA. But for those that maybe don't, can you talk about APSA as an organization? and what the mission of APSA is?
Thank you to our sponsor, Robinson Helicopter Company, the choice for unrivaled safety and reliability so you can accomplish any mission with confidence. For more than half a century, Robinson has been at the forefront of the helicopter industry. From the R-22 to the R-66 turbine, Robinson makes helicopters accessible so more people can accomplish more missions. Climb higher. For additional information, visit www.robinsonheli.com.
Yeah, we're a 501c3 nonprofit, so that gives us some leeways in the way we run our business. But our mission is just to promote aircraft and public safety aviation, and we do that in lots of ways, but primarily through education. We are let me go back. We're a 501c3 educational association. That's our base as we were founded on. So our mandate is to provide training to those that are involved in public safety aviation, and we do that in lots of different ways. And it's certainly evolved over the years. It started out drinking a beer under an airplane wing and just talking about, hey, how do you do this and how do you do that? And then this guy, well, he was pretty good at that. So, you need to teach a class, and hey, we need to bring some vendors along and let people see what the equipment is out there. And it's just morphed and grown over the years that way. But that's what we are. Our primary mission is to educate and with a focus on safety and getting people home safely every night.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, the training is so crucial. I think of the conferences that I've been to, and you talk about the big names like Jack Schonely, Kevin Means, Clay Lacey. I've seen, actually, I didn't get a chance to see you, Jack, at APSA. I saw you at the LAPD TFO course, but I saw Kevin Means. He was there for a year when I started going, and then Clay Lacey was there. And those, to me, that from a training perspective, that's what draws me in. I go to hear these legends in the industry talk about the things that they've experienced and teach in our industry. And I think that's great. So to continue to attract the best in the industry as far as training goes, I think is great. So thank you for providing that, and look forward to the continuation of these big names, being brought in to provide this training.
It's amazing how often we talk to people. This just happened in DC on the podcast tour. We were at US Park Police, and we were talking we did a podcast there, and of course, the rescue on the Potomac came up from years ago, and I said, yeah, I heard that pilot speak years ago, and it was at an ALA event. I mean, that comes up all the time, and I'll never forget that. By the way, it was riveting, absolutely riveting to listen to that pilot talk about that event, and that happens every year at APSCON. It happens every year. You come across somebody who you listen to their class, even if it's in the breakouts, the short sessions, and you go, wow. And you walk away and you have that knowledge and in the back of your head now, and it pops up later on where you say, wow, those guys really improvised that day. Maybe you're going to have to improvise someday. And you learn so much more than I have found that you learn a lot more than you even anticipate learning. Between the classes and the networking and meeting with the vendors, you walk away every time with a lot more knowledge than you arrived with. That's the goal, as Dan just described. That's the goal. So it's really it's fun, it's enjoyable, and it's educational. And they have really good food in Houston too. I'll just leave it at that. I can't wait to go to Good Company. I haven't been there in a long time. I love Good Company.
Yeah. I'm aware that you and some other people there at your hangar in the past used to like that place. I would send guys from Good Company over there to LAPD sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah. Great place. Yeah. Houston has, I don't think I know that we eat out more per capita than any other major city in the U.S. And there's a lot of restaurants. There's well over 10,000 restaurants in Houston. So, and just in the downtown area, there's a lot. Yeah, it is incredible. It's an incredible amount of, and the diversity we have in food. You can get food from, if you like certain foods other than just regular, American comfort food, there's all kinds of food available in Houston.
Yeah, that's exciting. And now that we're talking about training, Dan Knight, can you talk about some of the classes that are available for folks? Not only, the core classes that are available in the beginning of the week, but some of the breakout courses that might be available as the conference progresses.
Yeah, you brought up a good point. We do have those core classes, and we continue to run those core classes, and that's TFO, SMS, unit supervisor, your unit manager course. Some of those core classes, those run Monday through Wednesday for the most part. Flight instructor refresher courses, again, those are the big ones. We do them every year, and we have to because they're so well attended, right? And there's always new unit managers coming up. Somebody's always getting assigned to the air unit support or air support unit. And those guys need that foundational learning. So those are just our home runs. They're just our basic fundamental classes that we put on every year. And so that's been exciting to get to redo those. But, this has been weird for me, right? Because now I'm also in this UAS world. So, not only Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday do we have these manned classes going on, but Monday and Tuesday we have our unmanned courses, and we're running a basic UAS class, a countermeasure drone class. We're running an advanced class. So some of that stuff's also going on the unmanned side. We have over 13 courses going this year, right? So all that's going on. And the unmanned guys on Wednesday, that becomes their breakout day. And so on the unmanned side, airspace deconflictions taught by some guys from Texas DPS. There's going to be an overview of Operation Lone Star, the stuff that's going on the border and how they've been able to do that. There's TAC classes that are going on for the drone operators, smuggling programs that are being taught by the FAA. So some of that's on the unmanned side on Wednesdays. Wednesday night, though, we do take a break, and that's when we open the convention floor from 5 to 8. We have an open year reception, as you guys are aware, because that's steeped in tradition as well. Thursday, we take it off on purpose. We don't do a lot of stuff. We want people on the exhibit floors. We want people down there, and because me being a past unit supervisor, I can tell you the benefits of talking with these vendors, because eventually you're going to buy stuff. And it's so nice to be down there and getting in and talking with these guys, networking with the vendors and stuff. And so we found that really important. We will have an FAA session of some sort, right? We always do that usually on a Thursday, give people an opportunity to talk to the FAA. We'll do a safety symposium, and these are really 1 hour long classes. And then this year, for the first time, we're doing an actual search and rescue roundtable to add some attraction for our SAR guys too. So, and that's getting hosted by Charlie Szymanski, which super big legend in his field, right? So that's good. To go back to some of the core classes, then on Friday we all come back, and that's where we have those breakouts, the stuff Jack was talking about, the stuff you can stick your head in the room and go, oh, I like that, and then I'm going to go find something else to do. And they follow some tracks and some themes. Like you could go tactics, you can go aircraft financing, things like that. But again, Kenny Maldonado from the FAA LEAD program, he's going to be doing a smuggling class. Air support to canine operations, that's a big hit for us. Water rescue is another big hit. We have a fixed wing track that's going on. So proactive fixed wing tactics and, operations of FLIR from the fixed wing aircraft. We always go over the public aircraft operations, so the review what's new, and then not a lot of stuff's coming out new, but it lets people know how to operate well in that world. Introduction, we're going to do some introduction to grants, how to go about writing grants and getting this stuff started. One of the interesting new classes we're offering this year, it's Airborne Public Safety Operational. It's just a development. How do you develop it? How do you start it up? What's the sustainment look like? And what does expansion look like, right? Kind of the Spokane model. It's not my class, mind you. Terry Miyachi, he's teaching that class. But oddly enough, there's a lot of people asking for it because, like I said, we went through the same thing in Spokane. Okay, we're this, but we want to be that. How does that look? What does that look like? And so we're really excited about that. Dwayne Havis is coming from Texas Parks and Wildlife. He had a ditching incident down in Austin, and he tells an epic story of survival and how dunker training saved his life, alongside with this paddleboard gal who was out on her paddleboard, and she's the one that saved his life. And she wasn't going to paddleboard that day, but something told her she needed to go. So it's a great story. So you have survival stories going on. If you guys aren't aware, we rewrote the UAS accreditation standards, and those will be presented so people can sit in and see what those are, right? And see what the new standards look like. Again, manned and unmanned airspace deconfliction, right? That's very attractive for some people because we go back to it. That, how do we do this? Let's all work together. Let's make it work. And some guys from Texas DPS really have honed that skill. And so they're going to be putting on that class. Skip Tackett's going to be there talking about his survival story, getting out of a Cobra that was on fire. And the reason he's here today to talk about that story is because of personal protective gear he's wearing. So again, that's some of the stuff we're looking at. And of course, Dudley, he'll be presenting. Brian Smith will be presenting. Brian's up to Gen 5 of its patrol tactics stuff that he does. And so, there's a lot of new, and a lot of the old instructors that we've seen before have just reinvented some of the classes. And I think this is going to be a really, really good seminar. I get excited because as a past attendee, I always look for classes like this. And so Dan's given me a lot of freedoms to say, hey, go out and find some really good classes. Between him, Don Roby, and then some of our network of other instructors stuff, we were able to, I think, really identify and put up a pretty good program.
That's awesome.
And if anybody's wondering what this full schedule looks like, because it's almost 40 classes going on Friday, it's on our website. And so people can pull it up and start planning what they want to be doing now.
Okay, cool. People, again, probably are familiar with your website, but if not, I'll put it in the show notes and put some links to that people can follow to get to that list of courses. You brought up Terry Bauchi, one of my favorite guys in the industry. So much insight, so much knowledge when it comes to public safety aviation, and especially what you're talking about with the new unit development. He's got so much insight and information on that. Anytime I get questions sent to us on the Hangar Z podcast about new units and new unit startups, Terry's the first person to contact because he's just so knowledgeable, has so much information. It's just a good dude. So highly recommend you attend Terry's class if that's something you're interested in. His leadership topics are huge too. That's another topic that
Terry's really good at that.
Yeah.
Well, he's doing both of them. He'll do one at 1 o'clock and then one at 3 o'clock. So he's a busy man that day.
Put him to work, Dan.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. He's a good guy. And what I like about Terry is he separates business from his past experiences. And so he comes here as a past unit supervisor, not as a Bell representative. And that's a different perspective. I think a lot of people think Terry's only going to talk about who he currently works for. And that's not the case. He brings real world experience and his experiences in life, and he brings those forward. And you just don't get this. You're not getting a sales pitch at all.
Right.
And he's a first class presenter. I mean, he's just good at communicating and good at presenting the information. You can have a lot of information, but if you can't present it, it doesn't get absorbed. Terry's he's gifted at it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a ton to be excited about with the education. The networking part is what I want to touch on next, because that's equally as important to me as the education. There's a lot of us, we come to these programs and you're there for some training, but in the back of your mind, you've got some issues that are taking place to your unit, and you're looking for solutions for them. And the neat thing is, at some point, you're going to come across somebody at APSCON who's dealt with that same problem that you're currently dealing with, and they may have a solution for you. And that's where the networking comes in. So can you guys talk about that a little bit and what some of those networking opportunities might be at some of the local bars and whatnot?
Thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support.
I'll let Dan address the local bar aspect. The only thing I want to point out is I learned so much from the networking aspect. You don't realize what you're getting out of these conversations that you have when the convention's over, if you're sitting, down eating dinner and stuff, to the point where you're never the first guy who's done something. Somebody else has already done that, right? Yep. And so as a unit supervisor, it makes it easier. And the other aspect is I have yet to ever meet a Jack Schonely, a Terry, a Kevin Meandrop who won't pick up the phone and offer their professional advice. And it's only because we talked once at APSCON earlier, right? And everybody's so giving. Clay Lacey, all these people are so willing to give their time and energy to help you succeed. And that's what the networking, bigger than anything, not that, badmouth Jack's class because I got a lot out of it, but the networking is huge. So
you're too kind to me, Dan.
Well, Dan, you're right. And that's why it's in our mission statement as well, that one of the ways we support and promote public safety aviation is through networking, because the networking is one of the 3 major pillars, and the networking is extremely important. And we try to, both through the classes and try to make them interactive, but also on the exhibit hall floor with what we used to do as a 2-hour sneak peek. Now it's our opening ceremony. Bell is going to step up and sponsor that for us again now for the 3rd year. And that's 3 hours on the floor on Wednesday night. That's a great opportunity. That's a really good field. It's a good buzz on the exhibit hall floor. Great way to meet people, talk to people, and interact with people. We've got, FLIR will be coming back and doing their Vision Awards on Thursday night. Always well attended, always a great networking event. Great way to meet people, see what people are doing, and then go meet those heroes and talk to them. That's afterwards and find out how about their programs and how they're doing what they do. We've got the opening breakfast on Thursday morning that's sponsored as well. We appreciate the sponsorship there. I believe that's Traca. I may these misspoke, but I don't think so. But I appreciate the sponsorship, and so that's a good opportunity. That's our general business meeting as well. So you can learn a little bit about the association, learn about what we're doing, and also interact with the fellow flyers. Friday evening is our annual awards reception, and that's when we really get to recognize those people in our industry that are the true heroes, the guys that are doing exceptional work out there, and get to recognize them. And we've had some really touching moments in those award reception as well.
Yeah.
We had one where the guys rescued a little boy, and the father of that little boy wanted that little boy to be there, and he came out after we introduced the guys, and it was just super emotional. So we've had some great things like that as well. So that's a great time, great networking event. Airbus is going to be doing an event on Friday night following that, which they've been doing for a while now, kind of a networking happy hour. And CNC is also going to be doing an event. And at this point, it stands at the Marriott Marquis, something very unique there at that hotel. There is a huge pool area, and there's a regular swimming pool there, but there is a lazy river in the shape of Texas. And if you can see it, and it's huge. You have to get up way high in the building to look down and take it all in. It's so big. But they're going to be doing a big pool party out there also. So that'll be a great networking event. Go out and meet people, talk to people. But the networking is on the exhibit hall floor. It's in these events. It's in the classes. It goes on everywhere. And you should walk away with a lot of contacts, a lot of people's names, phone numbers, emails. It's the best way to do it. And all the instructors put all that information up on their as part of the presentation, so they all you can reach out to any of them as well. So it's really bringing everybody together, and everybody's there.
Yeah, I want to go back to something you brought up, the pool party. It sounds like it's the perfect place for the first annual Hangar Z Cannonball Contest. I mean, I'm just saying.
Wow.
Hey, John, I think we can get. That's a great idea. I'll come up with a price on that sponsorship, and I'll let you know. Okay.
Wow, John, you're full of ideas. You're an idea man.
I think it's a good idea, John. It is.
we could have Dan and Jack. You guys could have scorecards. 10 to 0.
As long as I don't have to do it. Yeah.
John, I'm thinking better belly buster. I'd like to see.
Yeah, belly flop contest. There we go.
Hey, I'll talk just real quickly. For anybody that's listening to this, if you're coming to APSCON, bring business cards if you have them, because everyone always asks for a business card. And as a cop, I was like, I want business cards. I did, but I left them at home. But it is the best way. Just bring business cards for sure.
I was going to add that if you don't leave APSCON with a stack this thick of business cards, you failed.
Exactly.
You failed, because that's how you learn, so much by these contacts. And you never know. I remember going back through stacks going, okay, I know I met somebody from, who was it? And, sitting there like a dealer at a blackjack table. And you go, there it is. Oh, and you call them and you ask that question and you get the answer. That happened hundreds of times. And in reverse, I got calls hundreds of times, where you say, hey, you mentioned this. Could you expand on that? Sure. That is so important. It's good you mentioned that, because every now and then somebody does say, shit, I don't have a card. And you go, what? You're at APSCON without a card?
Yeah, right.
And I'm pretty sure this has been pretty common at the conferences that I go to. That you go down to the exhibit floor and somebody's always got a bowl. And if you drop your card in it, you might win something too. So it's dual purpose.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
And nothing else. Can you get a QR code that people can scan on their phone and have all your contact information downloaded? You got one thing.
Well, I'm looking forward to APSCON as I do every year. It's going to be really, really awesome. for the years to follow, can you guys give us a preview and idea of some of the locations that either you've already decided it's going to be at these locations, or even some locations that are hypothetical?
Yeah, I can do that, John. But I would like to hit on a couple of things about this APSCON before I go there, if you don't mind.
Sure.
There's a couple of exciting things. One of the things is that we have a record number of aircraft on display this year. We normally have 8 to 12. We have at least 16, and it's going to get bigger. And I'm talking about full-size aircraft, not counting the UAS. So much so that for the first time ever, we've had to rent the exhibit hall next to ours.
Wow.
It was available, and we've expanded over into it. And we're going to be using about a third of that space too, but that's still exciting because we didn't have enough room for all the people that want to exhibit on the 10 by 10 sides because we have so many large booths with aircraft in them. But with that expansion, that gave us the opportunity to put in a flying zone for UAS, and along with Houston Convention Center being very liberal in allowing us to fly without netting. There's just a couple of restrictions we have. Other than that, we're pretty open to fly, which is going to allow us to, for the first time, is to offer the NIST courses that we offer around the country at people's units. We're going to be offering them in conjunction with the conference, and we'll be flying every day on the floor. NIST will be there. They'll be setting up a confined and an obstructed area. Besides the 3 open test lanes, which we'll have set up, NIST is going to be on site building the obstructed and the confined for all, just so we can do all 5 test lanes and issue pilot certificates and build proctors there.
Wow.
So that's new and exciting this year. Something we haven't been able to do in the past. We've never, most of our training's all of our training's been in the classroom, never a practical side. This is, we're adding the practical side on that. So that's exciting for us this year. Having the amount of manned aircraft, having the UAS fly zone now, and being able to bring a lot of that training there to APSCON at the same time. To your question, next year I'm one contract away from Phoenix. I've got one signed. I'm working from the other one for next year, for 2025. 2026 is in the works. We're looking at going out to the east side. We try to move around the country, try to go out east, somewhere in Savannah, Fort Lauderdale, somewhere Florida area if we can, for 2026. 2027 I've already signed. That's back in Reno in 2027. And 2028, we've got a couple of options under consideration right now is San Antonio for one, Oklahoma City, and then we've got a couple of things up on the East Coast as well. So we're going to move around, move it back and forth. Oh, and always a favorite for a lot of people is New Orleans. We're also in conversation with New Orleans right now again for one of those next 4 or 5 years. That's
awesome. Did you say for 26 potentially Savannah? Was that the first city you said?
It was, and John, Savannah. We outgrew Savannah in terms of their exhibit hall space. Now they've done a convention center expansion, but it got slowed. I think it's about to be completed. But Savannah is just quite frankly, it's lately for us, it's been a difficult city to work with in terms of pricing for hotels. We're always price conscious. We try to keep our registration low. We try to keep our booth prices reasonable for our exhibitors, and we try to keep the hotel prices reasonable for our attendees, realizing that a lot of our attendees pay their own way. A lot of them do, over 50%. But when I'm looking at hotels that are in the $250, $260 range, it's just, it starts to get, for our members, that's more than what we would normally want to come in at. And those are the kind of numbers I'm getting right now. So we're working on it, but I don't know. While we'd love to go to Savannah, I don't know we'll get there for an annual conference. Just yesterday, though, I signed a contract for a NIST course, the advanced NIST course, which is all 5 test lanes, and that's going to be for Georgia State Patrol, and that will be in Savannah. So if somebody wants to go to Savannah and they want some UAS training, we're going to be there in September for that, September 9th, 10th, and 11th for that course. So,
hey, Dan, I did want to remind you that's one of the courses that I'm going to have to be involved with, and it's going to need supervision. and it's going to need supervision. So I'm sorry, I got to go to that.
Dan's had his hands full since he's come on board with us. So in the interim, I was handling all the UAS stuff. So I'm still kind of handling that right now.
Thank
He'll
gosh.
eventually get to Dan, but that's what he's talking about. He wants he needs to get back to Savannah for some reason.
And John, it also needs podcast coverage. I'm just throwing it out there.
Don't disagree with you there. Dan, going to some of the training outside of the conference that members can look for. I know you guys do a lot of stand-up training. Can you talk about some of the training that might be available for members and where that might take place?
Dan, I'll let you handle that in terms of some of it, and I'll handle the UAS side of it.
Yeah, sounds good. Right now, so we always take a break. We have a webinar that we do, webinar training once a month, but we do take a break during the summertime. And so those will start back up in the fall. Still putting things together because APSCON commits. You have to commit a lot of time to APSCON, and but matter of fact, I think I have the 4 classes I want to do laid out next. The best way to check that is just check the website because they'll be coming out. So we do have that webinar series. That's what we're doing. We also have currently, we just signed Spokane to a safety stand too in October. It looks like 9, 10, 11 or 10, 11, 12, something somewhere in those dates. We're letting Spokane kind of drive that because they have a relationship with Fairchild Air Force Base. And they always run that in conjunction with a Dunker training day. And of course, now we're trying to get schedules set up so that people can attend this event and go to Dunker training at the Air Force facility. So those dates are slightly in flux, but that's going to be about the right time. And then the following week, October 17, 18, or 17, 18, doing a safety stand up in Calgary, which we're excited about because it'll be our first in-person one for a while up there. Most of the time we do this virtually. So that's the next up and coming things once we get past APSCON. Webinar, safety stand, and those 2 safety stand twos. Those are what's on the books now. Dan's always busy, though. We're always recruiting more stuff. If somebody wants to run a safety stand to or safety seminar in their region, certainly reach out to us and we can always arrange that. But and again, I give Dan all the props in the world because he hasn't had me tackle the UAS side a lot with this NIST because it's really, really busy. And Tony DiMolina does remote-based UAS training as well, and I'll let Dan hit on that. But luckily, I haven't had to take that on because it's a busy, busy aspect for us. So Dan, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, and then we also to add to the safety stand twos, we've got a virtual safety stand two for natural resources as well later in the year. That'll be live online virtually. But in the UAS training, and we've been doing a lot of it. We've got besides the ones that are going to be at our conference, we've got in Florence, Texas, at the Texas DPS training facility. They've certainly been generous with us, and they've shared their facilities with us. We'll be doing a basic open basic and an advanced confined course back to back there in September, and then like I said, we'll be doing in October. I apologize, and in September we'll be doing the one in Savannah. And I've got 5 other contracts out right now, just waiting to get them back, all on different niche type courses around the country. That seems to be that's what's on demand on the road right now is the UAS training. And so, that's, and the website, again, we're constantly adding stuff to the website, constantly updating the website. You just go to the homepage on the right-hand side. There's a list of the different training events that we do, types, and then you can click on that and you get all the dates and all the information for registration.
Cool. You can also click on the Hangar Z podcast link that's on your homepage.
There you go.
You can. You certainly can.
Well, you guys, thank you for all the efforts you put into the conference, to the industry. This again is the Super Bowl for our industry, and getting a chance to go to the conference in the different locations each year is the highlight of the year. It's critically important, and I appreciate everything you guys are doing. Jack, any closing thoughts before we head out?
Just, I'm looking forward to going to this. It's been a while in retirement. So I know how much it benefited myself over the years, and it's still doing that job. So I look forward to seeing everybody in Houston at the APSCON this year. That'll be great.
Any closing thoughts, gentlemen?
I got to tell you, I'm retired, but I get to work doing this, and I still get to pinch myself every day because going to these events in the past was so exciting, and now to be actually involved in it, it sounds corny, but it's a dream come true. And to be surrounded by some of the people that I love the dearest, and a true belief in the mission and what we've done, over the years, to be part of that, and it's a very exciting time for us, and that's why I'm hopefully building the best program possible so we can keep continuing a great education because we get so much out of it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, I've been doing this for a while, and I got to tell you, I still love doing it. It's still a passion. I love the industry. I love the work that I got to do when I was flying every day. I love the work that I get to do now. I'm glad. I'd love to be still a part of it. I know I'm not the best instructor and speaker in the world, but if I can work hard behind the scenes and facilitate great people like all the names we've mentioned and Dan and everybody else to come on board and work hard on behind the scenes to make this happen and make the thing up, that's where I get my satisfaction. Still gets the juices flowing. Still excites me. Love my job. Love what I get to do.
Yeah,
I appreciate
absolutely. I would like to say you touched on it. Instructor is a unique skill. Everyone's got a skill set, and everyone kind of uses that skill set to the benefit of their department and using it for the benefit of our industry. But for the instructors, it's a unique skill set that I really admire. Not only do you have the experience to talk about what you're talking about, but you have the ability to convey that information in a way that's engaging, and entertaining is not the right word, but it's engaging. If you can make it entertaining and engaging, that's gold. That's where Jack and Clay and Nick Meeks and Terry Mauchi, these folks that have mastered the craft of training, that's what for me draws me in, and so thank you, Jack, for what you're doing for teaching our industry. We've talked about this before, but if you were to put a number to the students you've taught over the years and then extrapolate that, and if each one of those students had only been responsible for 2 arrests over the course of their career because of your training, you would have put a lot of people behind bars. So thank you for that.
Oh, it's been fun. It was done. It never felt like work. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Well, on that, look forward to seeing you guys at APSCON this year in Houston, and we'll catch you later.
All right. Thanks much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Hangar Z podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more stories that promote the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation. Lastly, stand by for a message after a word from our sponsors. Cheers.
Thank you to our sponsor, Robinson Helicopter Company, the choice for unrivaled safety and reliability so you can accomplish any mission with confidence. For more than half a century, Robinson has been at the forefront of the helicopter industry. From the R-22 to the R-66 turbine, Robinson makes helicopters accessible so more people can accomplish more missions. Climb higher. For additional information, visit www.robinsonheli.com. Thank you to our sponsor, Precision Aviation Group. Mission-critical operators and fleet managers rely on Precision Aviation Group as a worldwide leading rotor and fixed-wing MRO provider. PAG provides tip-to-tail solutions in 4 MRO segments: avionics, components, engines, and manufacturing DER services. A single point of contact gives you access to over 150 million in inventory globally, 24/7. Just call 800-537-2778. Precision Aviation Group. Others sell parts. We sell support. Thank you to our sponsor, Spectrum AeroMed, your trusted partner in air medical solutions. Experience safety and innovation with their customized interiors. Designed for both rotor and fixed-wing aircraft. Fly with confidence. Fly with Spectrum AeroMed. For more information, please visit spectrum-aeromed.com.
Thank you for supporting Vertical Helicasts and the sponsors who make these conversations possible. As we wrap up this episode of Hangar Z Podcast, we want to emphasize the critical role that education, networking, and training play in career development within the field of public safety aviation. Continuous learning and professional growth are essential for staying at the forefront of our industry, ensuring we can provide the best possible service to our communities. Dedicating ourselves to continuous education, active networking, and rigorous training not only enhances our individual careers, but also strengthens the entire public safety aviation community. By prioritizing these elements, we can achieve greater success and make a meaningful impact in our roles. I'd like to leave with this quote from Benjamin Franklin: "Tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn." Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Hangar Z Podcast. Until next time, fly safe. Catch you later. Cheers.
Time to close up the hangar. Thanks for joining us on the Hangar Z Podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts.